The rain hit the city windows like shards of glass the day he said it. "You're weak and useless." His voice was calm, but the words carried the weight of final judgment. Mia didn't speak. She couldn't. Her chest tightened. Her hands shook as she tried to steady her breath. She had given him years, loyalty, late nights, dreams that no one else had believed in. Yet Ryan Cole, the man she once admired, didn't even look up from his laptop when he ended her career with those 4 words. The world outside blurred as her reflection merged with the storm, small, forgotten, broken. She walked out of his towering office without a word, holding her resignation letter that now felt like a death sentence. The air was cold, and the city lights reflected off wet streets, mocking her silence. But deep inside her shattered heart, something flickered. It wasn't anger. It was resolve, a quiet, trembling promise that one day she would prove him wrong, not with revenge, but with results. That night, Mia sat in her empty apartment, staring at her laptop screen, her mind replaying his voice, weak, useless. The words stabbed her over and over until finally, she whispered to herself, "You'll see, Ryan, you'll see what weakness can build." The next morning, Mia woke up to silence. No emails, no phone calls, no colleagues waiting for her in the office she once ran. Her name had already been erased from the company system. She stared at her cracked phone screen, the last message from Ryan still visible. "Good luck finding something that suits your skill level." The words burned deeper than any wound. For hours she sat there, frozen between humiliation and disbelief, until reality pushed her forward. She packed what little she had left, some clothes, a few notebooks filled with ideas Ryan once ignored, and a single photograph of her mother, who had always told her, "You're meant for more." Mia moved into a small rented room on the city's edge, with peeling paint and a flickering light that hummed through the nights. There were days when hunger felt heavier than hope. She worked small freelance jobs, fixing business plans for strangers, writing marketing drafts for startups that barely paid her. Still, she kept going. Her body was tired, but her heart carried a fire that even failure couldn't smother. Weeks turned into months, and one evening while reviewing client work, she discovered a pattern. Companies crumbled not because of bad ideas, but because of how they treated people. That night, something inside her clicked. She closed her eyes and whispered, "If no one gives me a place to belong, I'll build my own." Mia began from nothing. No investors, no office, no team. Just a second-hand laptop on a shaky wooden table and a mind full of untested ideas. Her first business plan was drawn on the back of old invoices. She called it Rise. It wasn't just a name, it was a vow. She started offering consultation to struggling small businesses online, helping them rebuild their brand strategies. At first, no one trusted her. She had no credentials, no company name to lean on, only her voice and persistence. But one client turned into two into 10, and soon, word of mouth became her only marketing tool. Some nights she worked until dawn, her tired eyes glowing in the light of her screen while her 2 children slept beside her on the couch. They were her reason, her heartbeat, her entire world. When money ran short, she skipped meals so her kids could eat. Yet every hardship became fuel for her vision. She promised herself that her children would never see her beg or break. Years passed quietly, but her work spoke louder than her name ever could. Rise Consulting grew into a full company, employing single parents, widows, and people who had been told they weren't enough. Every success felt like a small victory against the words that once shattered her, weak and useless. The world began to take notice of Mia Carter. Her name started appearing in small business magazines, her story labeled as an unexpected rise from nothing. But fame was never her goal. It was survival turned into success. One evening, as she prepared a presentation for a charity project, an email appeared in her inbox with a subject line that made her heart freeze. Partnership proposal, Coal Dynamics. She stared at the screen for minutes, the name burning like a ghost from her past. Ryan Cole. The man who once dismissed her without a glance was now reaching out to the woman he believed could save his collapsing company. Mia hesitated before opening it. His message was brief, professional, almost desperate. His company was struggling to recover from a public scandal, and her consulting firm had become the name everyone trusted. She could almost hear his voice again. The same calm tone that once broke her, but this time it carried uncertainty. For a moment she laughed, not out of bitterness, but in disbelief at how life had come full circle. That night, as her daughters slept, she walked to the window and looked out at the city that had once buried her dreams. She whispered to herself, "Now he'll see the woman he once called useless." The pain of the past turned into quiet strength. She wasn't after revenge, she was after respect. And this time, she would walk into his boardroom not as an employee, but as the solution he couldn't find anywhere else. The next morning, Mia arrived at Coal Dynamics dressed in calm confidence, not luxury. Her white blazer was plain, her folder worn, but her presence filled the entire boardroom. The executives whispered when she entered. This was the woman who built a multi-million-dollar company from a rented apartment. Ryan stood near the head of the table, his expression unreadable, yet his eyes flickered with something she hadn't seen before: uncertainty. For the first time, he was not the most powerful person in the room. "Mia Carter," he greeted, forcing a polite smile. "I'm glad you could make time." She smiled back, steady and poised. "I make time for opportunities," she replied softly, then slid her proposal across the table. Every slide reflected years of resilience, brilliance, and sleepless nights he had never witnessed. As she explained her plan, he listened, realizing each idea carried a depth his own team had failed to create. When the meeting ended, the silence that followed was heavier than applause. Ryan's voice faltered as he finally said, "You've built something extraordinary." Mia met his gaze without bitterness. "From nothing," she replied quietly. "Exactly where you left me." The room went still. Even he couldn't hide the shame in his eyes. He had once called her weak, yet now she was the foundation his empire needed to survive. Ryan stood in his office, the same one where he had once told her she was nothing, and watched the woman he had underestimated walk away, this time not in defeat, but in victory. The board had just signed the partnership deal, and everyone congratulated Mia. Her company would guide Coal Dynamics through a global recovery strategy. Ryan remained silent, his pride clashing with regret. He remembered that day years ago, the rain, her trembling hands, and his careless words. "You're weak and useless." But now she was the definition of strength, standing where he once stood, commanding respect without raising her voice. Later that night, Mia walked home with her daughters. They held her hands, giggling about their mother's big meeting. She smiled quietly, her heart full, knowing they would never know how much pain it took to reach this peace. The lights of the city reflected in their eyes. The same city that once swallowed her dreams now shone beneath her feet. Across town, Ryan opened a news article titled, "From Fired Assistant to Industry Leader, the Story of Mia Carter." His throat tightened as he read. For the first time in years, he whispered the words he should have said long ago. I was wrong. But Mia didn't need to hear it. She had already proved that the strongest revenge is success built in silence.